Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing guys my newly updated margin ratings for every single swing state or battleground state in this election between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And I'm going to be breaking down each individual swing state by county map, and also basically this is my prediction if the election was held today at this current moment and where things stand in my opinion, regardless of what the polls say. But before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed as we are approaching 4,000. Click the bell so you don't miss out on my content. Press the like button, give this video a thumbs up. Share this video. Also, if you're interested, we have memberships. You can find a link to that in the description section. So to start off this video, let's begin with the West Coast and make our way up lastly to the northeastern states for those Rust Belt states, starting off with Nevada, in which if the election was held at this current moment, exact time, I do think Trump wins this state by roughly 1.5 percentage points. If I were to make an estimated guess, that is the margin as of right now, basically a lean margin for the former president. Let's break this state down by county. Let's take a look at quickly what would it take for Donald Trump to flip this state in 2024. Now, 4 years ago, Biden had won this state by 2 percentage points, actually slightly less than Hillary Clinton's margin, I believe. And so Donald Trump would right off the bat have to flip Washoe County. Obviously, that's a Biden county by 4.5%. I think it's very flippable for Donald Trump. So if he were to flip the state, he would have to flip Washoe County. That's number one. Number two is ensure Kamala Harris does not have skyrocket turnout in Clark County, which is basically the Vegas area, in which Clark County is a Biden county by 9.4%. Now, if Trump does perform better, I wouldn't say overperform, but perform better than his 2020 margins in Clark County, then he's probably already on track to win the state, as he is the slight favored. And I do think if he is able to perform better among Hispanic voters as well, that would be really key to his victory in the state of Nevada. So that's basically what it takes for Trump to win a state. To quick to sum it up, he's gonna have to flip Washoe County, as well as have high turnout in Clark County among Hispanic voters as well, and I think he can do exactly that. And now, as for the next state of Arizona, this is also a border state, and so we have to keep in mind that this is not a winning issue for Kamala Harris. Immigration is a losing issue for her. There's no way she can address this as much as Trump does. Her messaging on this issue, basically the messaging is really what's her problem at this point in time. And if the election was held today, I do think it's extremely close. And at this point in time, I do think Trump is the narrow victor in the city of Arizona by under percentage point, half of 1%, so 0.5% if the election is held today for Arizona for Donald Trump. And now, what would it take for Trump to necessarily win the state? Let's take a look. So the entirety of the state comes down to one county, and that's Maricopa County. Biden won Maricopa by 2.2% in 2020, and obviously Trump won it in 2016. So in my opinion, whoever wins Maricopa is going to win this state entirely. And it also comes down to Trump has to run up the numbers in some of these red counties. He has to make them redder because they weren't red enough apparently in 2020. For example, Yuma County only went to Trump by 6.2%. He has to win it by more than just 6 points. That's not enough in Yuma County. So maybe probably like double digits as an example. And also, Navajo County went to Trump by 8.3. That's not enough for him to win the state. He's going to have skyrocket turnout in this county as well. And yes, obviously, most importantly, he must flip Maricopa. If Harris wins Maricopa in 2024, then she is going to win this state. It comes down to a number of things, not just these counties alone. It also comes down to the establishment party in Arizona for the Republicans. There's a lot of neocons in this state, and there's a lot of rhinos, as what some people would call them, on the right that broke for Biden in 2020 because he was seen as more of a moderate candidate. And they don't see that same view for Kamala Harris. She's obviously, less moderate than someone like Joe Biden, as we all know. And so considering that this is a border state and voters are impacted by this more than any other state, on this issue alone, Kamala Harris cannot address that. And Donald Trump got endorsed here by Doug Ducey, who was the former governor who won by double digits in this state. This is a purple state. He won by double digits. So I think that endorsement alone could sway things. It could hurt her, but will it cost Kamala Harris the state? I'm not quite sure. I do see a reality in which she does win this because Arizona is getting bluer. Obviously, they elected a Democratic governor for the first time since 2009, back in 2022. Katie Hobbs. They also have a Democratic senator, Mark Kelly. So statewide, Arizona is getting bluer, so it would not shock me if she were to win. Now, this is a must-win for Donald Trump, in my opinion. If he loses Arizona, he's obviously not going to win the election or those Rust Belt states, because if he loses Arizona, he has to win at least 2 of those Rust Belt states at the same time, in which I just don't see that happening. And obviously, this is not a must-win for Kamala, as she can win those 3 Rust Belt states without winning a state like Arizona if she were to, rebuild that blue wall. And so that's pretty much it. Also, independence as well. Trump would have to probably win over the independent, support in order to flip the state, because only went by like 11,000 votes, a margin of 0.3%, extremely narrow. So I do think Trump can do it. And also, on average, Trump was beating Biden in the state by 5 to 6 points, according to 538 and RCP. And apparently the polls are saying that Kamala Harris is going to do roughly 5 percentage points better than Joe Biden. That's the shift in favor of her. I just don't see that being a reality in which Kamala Harris performs roughly 5 points better than Biden in the state of Arizona. I just don't see that. And I don't think she's much better than him. Let me know your thoughts. Now, moving on to the next state. So as for Colorado, if the election is held today, I have Kamala Harris getting double digits by probably 10 percentage points. Colorado, believe it or not, is getting bluer. Democrats keep gaining new voters, and this state used to be, considered, it kind of still is a battleground or swing state, and I am using quotations, but it's not a real swing state. Obviously, we always say battleground states, right? But the real ones, I believe, come down to probably 8. Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, in my opinion, are the real swing states. I would say the fake ones are probably Colorado, New Mexico, Florida, Texas. Those are not the real swing states, if you know what I'm saying. And then as for New Mexico, I do believe Kamala would win it by probably 8 percentage points if I, were to make an estimated guess for the margin. And it's hard for Trump to overcome the votes in Albuquerque, a Democratic stronghold county, has a lot of white liberals, so it's hard for Trump to do that. Maybe he can do slightly better among Hispanics, probably 1 to 2% shift it in favor to the right, but still not enough for it to be even competitive. Kamala Harris would comfortably win both of those states in 2024. Before we move on to the next state, quickly, 287 electoral votes for Donald Trump, just to get that out of the way, to Kamala Harris is 251. So right off the bat, Kamala Harris is performing roughly 25 electoral votes better than where Joe Biden was from my last margin projection. So she is a slight improvement, probably because of the enthusiasm. It does not necessarily mean she is better than Joe Biden on policy, but it is the enthusiasm. Also, her VP pick was probably one of the better choices for her, other than, I would say, the scandals that Tim Walz is facing. So as for Texas, if the election is held today, I have Trump winning this by an exact margin of 7.5 percentage points. I think because it's a border state similar to Arizona, that is a losing issue for Kamala Harris. And also Greg Abbott won by double digits in 2022, just 2 years ago. And so I think that really shows that Texas is still a red state. I understand that in the future, futuristic wise, Texas is supposed to be a purple state, maybe even blue someday. But as of right now, we're talking about 2024, not 2028 or 2032. As of right now, Trump's going to win it by a likely comfortable margin. I do think he would perform better among Hispanic voters as well. Just immigration is that bad for Kamala. I just don't see how Texas can be close this time around. And then for Florida, I do think Trump would win it by a couple points better than he would in Texas, by 9.5 percentage points. He would probably flip Miami-Dade County from blue to red, as DeSantis did back in the midterms. He did actually flip Miami-Dade County. He won by nearly 20 percentage points. Obviously, Trump's not going to get 20, but he may be able to reach double digits, as I have him almost getting 10% in this election. Also, Cuban Americans specifically are really shifting towards right in Florida. And now we move on to the state of Georgia, in which as of right now, I have Trump winning the state by exactly 1 percentage point, a tilt margin. I think it's extremely close. So the main reason why Biden flipped this state for the first time for any Democrat since, I believe, Bill Clinton by a margin of 10,000 votes, 0.2%, extremely narrow. He got really lucky, is because he did so well in Atlanta, the metropolitan area, especially the suburbs, as well among African American voters. Now, in order for Trump to win this state, it's not going to take a lot, because the margin of error was just so low for Biden in 2020. So I would say this is an easy flip for Trump. He's going to flip Baldwin County 100%, only went to Biden by 1%. So that county's 100% going to shift, as well as Washington County was a Biden county by 0.7%. Those two counties we just went over are going to flip for Donald Trump. Also, if Trump does perform slightly better in Sumter County, it only went to Biden by nearly 5 points. I do think he's on track to flip the state. And if Kamala were to win this state, which I do think she possibly can, she would have to perform in line with Joe Biden's 2020 performance in Atlanta. Atlanta is extremely key if she wants to win. Obviously, Fulton County as well. And then Trump would have to perform slightly better in this county. He only won it by like almost 2 points. That was not good enough. So it's going to come down to probably Atlanta, the suburbs, mainly, I would say. And also a few of these counties that Trump has to flip, but it's not going to take a lot. Also, he should be able to perform better in Peach County. I think he can do exactly that. And also, one thing to keep in mind, if you guys did not know, Georgia legislators or lawmakers are passing election laws in which all absentee ballots have to be put in by 8 p.m. no later. So that means that the state would be called faster, and that would really benefit Donald Trump. And that's what Brian Kemp is really aiming to do. Even though he and Trump don't really have the best relations, he still is passing new election laws that would, secure, I would say, the votes, which is what people on the right would call it. And same thing with Virginia with Glenn Youngkin. He's also mandating paper ballots, which we would get to Virginia later after we move on to the next state. As for North Carolina, if the election is held today, I have Trump winning this by 3 percentage points, probably one of the better performances for him and any other swing state. In my opinion, North Carolina is getting better. Republicans are doing tremendous. If you take a look at voter registration specifically, they are gaining new voters in numerous of these swing states, not just North Carolina, but Pennsylvania as well. Republicans are doing tremendous in, voter registration, getting new voters on their side, and even Arizona as well. But yes, I do think North Carolina is probably more redder than a lot of people may think, probably redder than Georgia, even Arizona, because when those two states both flipped to Biden in 2020, North Carolina still went to Trump by pretty substantial margin of 1.6%. So I do think North Carolina is probably one of the more redder swing states for the former president. And then you have a state like Virginia, which I just mentioned, that Glenn Youngkin actually endorsed Donald Trump. And he is a very popular governor with a popular approval rating, so I do think that really can sway this race in favor of Donald Trump. So if the election is held today, I do think Virginia would go down to the wire, but Kamala Harris would narrowly pick it up by probably 3 percentage points, a lean margin. And yes, he is pushing for, Glenn Youngkin is trying to, mandate paper ballots, which really would benefit Donald Trump in the long run. And then you have the fake swing states, Ohio, Iowa, in which I do think Trump would win those by probably 9 to 10 percentage points. Obviously, you have the vice presidential pick home state advantage. J.D. Vance specifically comes from Ohio, so you have that advantage as well. So that's going to comfortably go to Donald Trump. And then you have Minnesota, in which, obviously, just like J.D. Vance from Ohio, you have the VP electoral map advantage. Tim Walz is the governor of Minnesota. So, obviously, Kamala Harris is more than likely comfortably going to win the state by probably 7 percentage points, a likely margin, if the election was held at this current moment. And for her to have this, amazing performance in Minnesota, she would have to really have high turnout in Minneapolis and the suburbs. I really think she can. Also, the women vote can really turn out for Kamala Harris. So yes, Minnesota is actually getting bluer. This state is trending towards the left. And then you have Wisconsin. So the exact margin for Kamala Harris in this state is 0.2% for Wisconsin. I do have this flipping from my previous prediction in which I had Trump winning Wisconsin. Now I have Kamala Harris winning it. A lot of new polls coming out showing good news for Kamala Harris. Also, if you take a look at the primaries in this state, Tammy Baldwin received more votes than the entire, I would say, the votes from the GOP in this state. And that's showing strong signs for Democrats in the Senate in this state. So we take a look at the county specifically in the state of Wisconsin. I do think Door County is a must-win for Donald Trump. Keep in mind, it only went to Biden by 1.5 percentage points, so I do think Trump is probably going to flip Door County. And not just that county as well. The main reason why Biden won this state in 2020 was because of Milwaukee. He had that high record turnout. I'm not sure if Kamala can do it. And if she does end up winning Wisconsin somehow, I do think the only reason why is because Tim Walz, her VP, would carry her to a victory. I do think that's when the VP really comes to, I would say, in effect. And then you have, I would say, some of these counties, 1.7 for Biden. I would think probably Trump's going to flip this county as well. You have Portage County. I believe Trump probably is going to flip this, and if he does, he's on track to flip the state. Keep in mind, only went to Biden by 0.6%. That's the margin, roughly 20,000 votes. So I think it's going to come down to those 20,000 votes. If Trump flips 20,000, obviously he's going to win the state, and it's not going to take that much. I do think he's probably has a decent shot, But if the election is held today, I do think Kamala does win. But, November is a different story. I do think Trump has time to gain some ground. Obviously, he's going to have to perform better than he did in 2020 from, Kenosha County. He only won it by 3 points. That's not going to be enough for him to win it if he does want to in 2024. Wells do way better in Columbia County. 1.5 for the margin is not enough. So yes, even though I do have Kamala Harris barely winning this state, I would say it's a toss-up. I do think if Trump were to win this state, it would probably be because obviously this was the reddest Rust Belt state of the most important three. Back in 2020, Wisconsin voted to the right of both Michigan and Pennsylvania, so it would not shock me if Trump won it, and it would not shock me if Kamala Harris wins it, as I do have her nearly as of right now, even though I would say it's kind of a 50-50 toss-up tie for both of these candidates. Probably Tim Walz would carry her over the top, in my opinion. And then I also have Kamala Harris winning the state of Michigan by probably around 1 percentage point on the dot. I do think because there was a large uncommitted vote of 100,000 voters voting uncommitted in the Democratic primaries, that really could make the state shift towards the right. But still, that was for Joe Biden. Obviously, when Kamala took over, she was performing slightly better than him. And keep in mind that this was the bluest Rust Belt state of them all in 2020. Michigan voted to the left of both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. So therefore, I do have Harris with a slight advantage. Also, with the backing of the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, who is very popular with that endorsement, I do think that maybe can carry Kamala. And also you have Tim Walz. That effect really could help. And also she probably is, nicer to pro-Palestinian protests than someone like Joe Biden. So I don't think that can really hurt her, but still that will be a slight factor. And so I do think that if she were to win the state, probably because she would have high turnout in Detroit shifting towards the left, especially the suburbs, as well as the women vote, could really turn out for Kamala Harris. And we have two final states before we end off this video, Pennsylvania and New Hampshire. So as of right now, if the election is held at this exact moment, for the margin, I do have Trump slightly winning Pennsylvania by a tilt margin, 0.4%. So the question is, what would it take for Trump to flip a state like Pennsylvania in 2024? I do think this state is the deciding factor and basically the tipping point state. I think a lot of people can agree. I do think he would have to flip Erie County. Nikki Haley, surprisingly, got a lot of that vote share in Erie County for the primaries, which is scary for Donald Trump. Biden won it by 1 point. I do think Trump can possibly flip Erie County. Also, Kamala Harris, is not really good when it comes to those Rust Belt states. Obviously, she comes from the West Coast. That has nothing to do with those blue wall states. So that's basically the main reason why she chose Tim Walz as a VP, because he comes from the Rust Belt, and also she probably avoided someone like Josh Shapiro because he is too pro-Israel, which can hurt her in Michigan, I would say. But yes, Erie County is very important. Also, he would have to perform better in Central County. Biden only won it by 4.8%. So maybe Trump can win the state if he does do that. And also, as far as Pittsburgh goes, obviously Trump got shot at Butler County, which is right next to Pittsburgh County. I do think that would run up the numbers. Maybe that can drive a lot of voters to the polls. So maybe Trump can perform better in some of these stronghold Democratic counties like Pittsburgh, and also Philadelphia and the suburbs are very important. This election entirely is really going to come down to the suburbs. It's not going to come down to the rural areas or the urban areas. It's going to come down to exactly the suburbs. And also Trump is more than likely going to flip Northampton County. It only went to Biden by 0.7%. And if Harris somehow wins Northampton, I'm going to be completely shocked, and obviously she would more than likely win this state. And also Bucks County, if Trump does perform better, it only went to Biden by 4.4. I do think he's on track to win this state. It's obviously going to come down to the working class, those blue-collar workers, and also college-educated voters, which really usually goes well for Democrats, but we'll see this time around. And then as for New Hampshire, I do have Kamala Harris winning this state by a margin of exactly 6 percentage points, a likely one. Even if she does slightly worse, she would still win New Hampshire. I would say this is one of the more bluer swing states for Kamala Harris. And if Trump does manage somehow to possibly flip Carroll County, I do think the state can go down to the wire extremely close, as well as this county as well. Biden only won it by 3.6%. It's going to be extremely close. Keep an eye on, watch that as well. Also, Rockingham County only went to Biden by 2 points. If Trump is able to, perform slightly better, improve on his margins in this county specifically, this state can get very closer. But no matter how close it does get, it does not matter, as Trump is probably going to lose the state. And also, as I mentioned earlier, this state has a lot of college-educated voters, which really goes in favor of Democrats usually, and I do think Kamala can probably do better among, that group, specifically college-educated voters, than someone like Joe Biden, especially knowing that Tim Walz is her VP selection. I think he can help with that aspect. So there you guys go. This is officially my newly updated margin ratings for every single swing and battleground state. If the election was held today, 287 for Trump to Kamala Harris, 251. She is a slight improvement from Joe Biden. One last final reminder to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss out on my content. Press the like button, give this video a thumbs up, share this video. We also have memberships. You can find a link to that in the description section if you are interested. And let me know what states you agree with, which margins you disagree with, and why in the comment section down below. That's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for watching.